We grew the business to about 140 properties before exiting. End of 2023, had a quick chat about being acquired. March 2024, they came down to our offices, and then we completed in September 2024. When you're a small business, you always try and keep lean, which is very important to do. You don't want to overspend. If your plan is to grow, scale, and exit, spend that extra cash on marketing. It will massively increase your value. If you're also offering, say, cleaning in-house, maintenance in-house, you're going to be increasing that value of the business.
Assuming you're a property developer, because why else would you be tuning into this podcast, and you're looking to become a better developer, then you won't want to miss our show this year. At our shows, you'll have the chance to listen to live expert speakers, network with like-minded professionals, and meet new service providers who can help you grow and perfect your property business. With Milton Keynes behind us, we're on to our next location in Bristol on the 30th of April, followed by Birmingham on the 16th of July, Manchester 10th of September, and finally Leeds on the 8th of October. The show is created by developers for developers, and the most amazing thing, tickets are completely free. Visit our website propertydevelopershow.co.uk to book your ticket today. Welcome to another episode of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today, we've got a very unique episode where it's a return of a guest, and that guest is episode 7, Josh Guest. Guess. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Scott. Looking forward to it.
So, obviously, a big milestone reached in your business life, I guess, if we want to say that, which is why obviously we've got you back on to talk through that. Obviously, you've managed to successfully exit the service accommodation, or semi-exit, the service accommodation business to through an acquisition.
Yes.
Congratulations, firstly.
Yeah, thank you.
So what's the kind of details around it from a kind of overview perspective?
I can explain about it. So we've sold guest homes to Host and Stay, which are based up north. They've got now currently about 1,200 properties in their group. We grew the business to about 140 properties before exiting. We grew guest homes over a 6-year period. That's probably more on the previous episode, so listen to that as well for more details about that. Just look to sort of exit and sort of looking at other things now. Amazing.
So what kind of process went in behind kind of getting to a point where you were exit worthy? You know, what was the sort of process that went into that?
Yeah, sure. So I met Dale, the owner of Host and Stay, a couple of years back in Barcelona, actually, at a networking event for the service accommodation industry called Scale. They've got Scale now in different locations as well across the world, actually, different events. And I had a quick conversation with him then. He said they were looking to grow through acquisitions. And I said I'd be interested in having a conversation basically behind that. And then we carried on growing over the last 18 months. And then I spoke to him again, end of 2023, and had another conversation with him. And from there, basically, we decided to look to exit the business. And sort of that's where we were able to come up with a solution and pass things over to them.
Amazing. So what was it? Heads of terms, negotiation, what did that sort of look like?
Yeah. So at the start, obviously some back and forth negotiation, sent them basically over all of our sort of accounts, figures. So some sort of key metrics in the service accommodation industry that they wanted to know from a management point of view, like the ADRs, the occupancy, how many properties, what type of properties, is it 1 beds, 2 beds, 5 beds, etc. What sort of areas are they for, sort of contractor market or they leisure market? All of those sorts of key high metrics that they wanted to know. How long are the length of contracts for each client, etc. How many different clients do you have? So is it all just leveraged on one big client, or is it multiple smaller clients? And then from that, obviously they've got their own sort of formula to work out how much they want to offer for the business. Then we did some negotiating back and forth from there. Then we came up with heads of terms, passed it to obviously both solicitors. Then they went from there, discussing with each other, back and forth as well, just on some sort of small things. Fortunately, really, they'd done, I think, another 4 or 5 acquisitions before us, so they'd sort of got a good set of heads of terms already. So it's not sort of going back and forth loads to tweak loads of things. So it's fairly realistic and real from their side and from our side. So we managed to come to a conclusion pretty quickly. So considering really so we're in 2025 now. So 2020, end of 2023, had a quick chat about being acquired, and then March 2024, they came down to our offices, had a look at our sites, etc. That's when we actually started proper discussions, really. That's when we actually came up with heads of terms. They did a quick overall dive of the business, etc. Came up to an agreement, and then we completed in September 2024. So literally a 6-month turnaround, really, from start to finish. So it was a pretty quick process.
Amazing. So in terms of, I guess, getting down to the nitty gritty of valuing the business, what did that sort of look like? Yeah,
so I think everyone can do it slightly differently. On paperwork, it was actually done EBITDA, which was technically on paperwork. It was like, I think about 4.6 times EBITDA, 4.4 times EBITDA, something like that. Okay. For my particular business. Obviously, everyone's business is different because, like I say, there's so many different equations that come in to the factor because everyone's got a different business model as such for the management side. So it's like I say, if you've got longer length of contracts, that's going to probably increase the value of the business. Mm-hmm. If you're also offering, say, cleaning in-house, maintenance in-house, you're going to be increasing that value of the business. Also, if it's depending if it's more leisure market or contractor market. So there's quite a lot of different factors. But most businesses in this sector are kind of more being technically valued per property basis, mm-hmm. Which can be anything from basically £1,000 to £10,000 per property. So that sounds like a big number, but depending on how many properties you've got, if you say you got, I don't know, 10 properties, they could probably only get to pay sort of £1,000 per unit, because obviously they might have high churn rate, etc. Anyway, and it's fairly small, and that would only be done. That wouldn't be done for an actual SPA. That would just be done through an asset purchase, or just, to be honest, like a referral fee, as it's 10, so they wouldn't want to go through all your accounts, etc. Mm-hmm. Whereas the more properties you got, then the value is getting up towards more £10,000 a unit, mm-hmm. Or maybe even slightly higher, depending, like I say, the extra services that you offer. That are not, we wasn't offering the cleaning in-house, but I think there's definitely quite big value in offering the cleaning in-house, and same with offering maintenance in-house. That it kind of does bring more stress, but at the same time, it is also increasing the value of the business. Mm-hmm. And also, the bigger you do scale, it's making it smoother your operations to run as well. Yeah. So there is pros and cons to it.
So of the 160 units, then, were any of them sort of rent to rent? Or was it just purely strictly management?
Yeah. So 140 units. Sorry, we saw that. So right. So yeah, we still have our own rent to rent portfolio as well. Mm-hmm. So they manage our rent to rent portfolio as well. Right. And I built up some of our own properties that we'd also bought as well. But they're all separately, so I still kept all those.
Right. So those are just essentially being managed by the acquirers.
Yes, correct.
Right, okay. In terms of the valuation, then, obviously over the 140 units, what did that equate to? How per unit did you obviously worked on a 4 times multiplier of EBITDA? Is that, because you've mentioned 2 valuations there, was that purely based on that was the end result of it being £6,000 per property? No, what did that sort of What was the valuation? How did you come to it?
So I'm not too sure how they necessarily got to the valuation.
Sure.
I just had a number in my head that I was kind of happy with. So I don't know if it was technically slightly undervalued or slightly overvalued, or I'm not too sure on what the going rate necessarily is, because we didn't actually go to anyone else. Like I say, I had a good relationship with these guys, sort of got on with them really well. So I thought the values aligned, etc. From meeting them a few times. So I was happy with what they offered for the business, or what we renegotiated between us, and sort of went from there. But I don't know if that was the exact
Sure.
value that it should be at, if it was under or over. And obviously, like I say, paperwork, it was done as EBITDA. But I think technically they're doing it on a property basis because they want to be scaling up properties. So I think they always look at it actually on a property value, not on an EBITDA value.
Sure. So north of 500,000?
Yeah, north of 500,000. Yeah,
north of 750,000.
It was between it was between I don't know, between 700 to $1 million. Okay. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We'll take that as an answer. Yeah. You've done well off it.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, congratulations on that front.
Yeah.
What sort of thing can people be doing that maybe have a service accommodation business, or they're in and around that space, to gear towards an exit? Is there anything you've kind of learned in the process, or you kind of looking back in hindsight, I wish I'd maybe, obviously the cleaning element you've mentioned. Yep. Is there anything else that you sort of think, well, I should have done that a little bit differently, maybe I would have maximised the value? What does that sort of look like?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a lot of things, to be honest, that I definitely would look to do differently again. And I think there's even scaling up more, actually, when you actually realise what people would potentially pay for property, like I say, technically up to, say, £10,000 a unit. Sometimes when you get past, like, say, referrals, or even if you're offering referrals to people, if you were paying, say, like £1,000 to take on a unit through just a referral fee, most people probably wouldn't pay that, because that sounds expensive. But you're going to get that money back within, say, 3 months anyway. And also, technically, what that client's now worth is actually a very good trade-off. So I think that's probably one of the major ones, and actually spending probably more money on marketing. Yes. So I think, like, a big thing when you're a small business, you always try and keep lean, which is very important to do, because you don't want to overspend. But once you do start getting some spare cash, and if your plan is to grow, scale, and exit, then spend that extra cash on marketing or paying through, like, referral fees, etc., because it will massively increase your value long term. Obviously, also, then once you, on the flip side of that, if you are coming to sell, say, within the next 18 months, or that is your plan, then I'd also start stripping back that, potentially, maybe when you were within, like, a 6-month period towards the sale, because obviously extract the cash out of the business yourself, because then you can actually reduce your overheads and increase your profit. You can take that cash before then, obviously, you actually exit. So we were probably still spending things, to be honest, which we probably didn't need to in the last 6 to 12 months before we even exited. One thing we even did, which was pretty cool, to be honest, but we did like a full main sponsorship on Worcester Cricket Club.
Nice.
Training shirt.
Yeah.
But we got quite a good price on it, but it was still several £1,000s more than we needed to spend really on marketing, that didn't actually necessarily gain us anything, really, because I was already selling the business. So technically that just come out of my earnings, which I could have actually had after. So that's definitely, there's some big key metrics around that. And then I'd definitely look to bolt on the extra things such as cleaning, maintenance, look at potentially how you're pricing your pricing structure as well compared to other competition, say your management fees, etc. So there's lots of little different things that you can definitely look at, and even look at what other things could you do for additional revenue. So it could even be just like you might charge a booking fee. You might also charge a direct booking fee as well. So if you're bringing in direct bookings, you could charge for those, and that's all extra revenue, which you could increase that profit line and then increase the value of the business.
Amazing. So in terms of, I suppose, a lot of people chase the exit. That's, what people aspire to do. Has life changed at all post-exit? What's that kind of look like for you now? Have you got a bit more time on your hands? How have you sort of spending your time? What's next?
Yes. Definitely got a bit more time. So still obviously transitioning through and stuff at the moment, but definitely got a bit more time on my hands. Haven't decided exactly what's next yet. Obviously still got a rent-to-rent portfolio, got my own portfolio. So it's good that we've got income coming in from there. We've got our own linen hire business as well, which is guest linen. So we're mainly looking to also really scale that up. It's mainly my partner, Becca, she mainly runs that business, but we're looking to really push that business now, especially in the West Midlands. So we're looking to really scale that up. We've got just taken on a new unit for that, spent quite a bit of money on new equipment, etc. So we're looking to really scale that up. And then, I haven't really decided yet if there's going to be anything else, but I think one main thing that I probably haven't focused as much on probably over the last 6 years is like health and fitness as well. So I want to focus more on that as well, and get myself being back healthy, etc. over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, and then potentially look at other things as well.
Amazing. Any holidays?
No holidays yet.
No?
No, yeah. We're getting married though at the end of this year, so that's exciting.
So the budget for that,
the budget for that keeps going up as well, and things keep getting more expensive as well. It's quite surprising how much all of that sort of stuff is.
I bet. Do you feel like it's kind of made a difference in your life? Are you happy that you've sold, or do you miss it? Like how's that sort of transition been?
Yeah, no, there's definitely flips of both sides. So there's, to start off with, I sort of did miss some things and thought, I could have actually maybe got this business bigger and probably sold it for more within the next 2-3 years. At the same time, I do feel a lot more relieved. So the biggest thing I think with that particular industry is it's 24/7. It's not a service business that you can potentially control. So when a boiler breaks, for example, especially as it's a holiday let Airbnb property, the customer wants that fixed now, or you need to relocate a guest. So either way, you still got to deal with it now. So that could be midnight and you need to deal with it. Whereas with a HMO or buy to let, you can tell the tenants, well, we'll fix it tomorrow or in 48 hours time, worst case, and they're not going to leave. And then with any other service business, for example, same with the linen business, if we take on more clients, we might have to work 15, 18 hours a day, but that was our choice that we wanted to scale the business and take on those clients. Whereas, like I say, if a customer calls at midnight, we have to deal with it because it's kind of a reactive 24/7 business. So it is nice to get out of that side of things, which that was probably my main reason for looking to sell the business. Because it is like a 24/7 reactive business. And then even so, we got to a good stage, we probably needed to double the business again to be able to afford to pay more of higher level staff,
Mm-hmm.
which were then running it without me there, or still those escalations. So we had a very good team, but obviously, and they would work out of hours for me, but then they would get stressed as well. And then they would end up leaving because then they're stressed. And obviously at a business at that level, which still can afford to increase their wages anymore or bring in any support to help them, because you still need to keep it lean enough. So that's what I mean. We needed to at least double it, maybe even 2.5 times it, to get it to a stage where you could bring in more of a managing director, and then hopefully have enough staff underneath so it's absorbing that 24/7 business. So it's always still going to be 24/7, but take more of the strain off myself.
Yeah, it makes sense. I suppose it's that kind of junction that you got to, where you continue, because most people, particularly when they start out, it changes once you kind of start to get more success in business and start to see things differently once you've kind of been through that process, obviously, and what you've ended up with. And people are always chasing like the exit or bigger scalability. That they don't really understand where the limit is, what is it that you're trying to get to? Because sometimes, particularly as you scale a business, let's use a mortgage broker, for example. When you're writing business for yourself, it's really simple because everything you earn is going into your pocket. You get, maybe one admin member of staff. So then you've got to find that additional income to make sure that you can support that. But then you start to take 2 advisors on, and all of a sudden, all the profit that you're making is going to those 2 advisors. And all of a sudden, you're not making as much as you were when you were on your own. But then you get to 5 advisors, and then assuming that the leads are there and all that sort of stuff, you start to see the benefit of having 5 members of staff instead of 2 members of staff, or, not including admin. And I think people don't understand that there's almost like a revenue level that you need to get to, and then you need to be willing to sacrifice the profit for that period of time once you get to that next level, which a lot of people, which I think is why some businesses fail, particularly early on. If they're really successful very quickly, then they start to acquire staff and it starts to dilute the net margin. And then they fail to get to that next level quick enough that they just run out of resources. And then they end up letting people go and just reverting back to where they were originally, which is a fine place to be if you're making that money, which is obviously interesting to hear from you. Obviously pushed through that level.
Yes.
Got to that kind of next level stage where it was like, right, okay, now if I bring on an MD, my profit margin's going to dip. But then eventually, in another 2 to 3 years, the profit margin will be back to where it was, but I will be able to step back from the business.
Yeah.
And I suppose that was the junction that you were at.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like you kind of got like 3 or 4 phases really of business. So your phase 1, like you say, is scale on your own. So maybe every business is different depending how profitable of a business is, but say like $250,000, or you've got maybe a few part-time VAs or part-time staff, etc. Then you get into phase 1, then you kind of lose half your profit again, because then to get to phase 2, get up to sort of that £1 million mark of turnover, and then it's kind of like you got to then go again, where then maybe you start looking at, say, bringing in an MD, etc. But then you lose all your profit again for the next 3 years. Also, to get to that, say, multi-million-pound revenue turnover, then you need to spend a lot more money on marketing as well. So you can normally probably grow a business to £1 million without spending much on marketing. Quite a lot of organic growth, referrals, etc. Whereas after that, you need to start to spend money on marketing, which could eat into your budget, or you could actually have to budgetize for that. And then you got the phase 3 and phase 4 after that. And it's whether you've kind of really got to decide, do I want to stop now and then either settle there and have a nice steady business at whatever phase you're at, or do I want to stop now and exit now, or do I want to push through and do that for another 5 years to get to that next phase?
Just very quickly interrupting this episode, have you got a property deal in mind? Want to build or grow your portfolio but unsure how to obtain funding? No problem. At Roma Finance, they love to lend. The borrower first approach means Roma deliver flexible, tailored solutions that accommodate the diverse needs and experience of developers across residential and commercial projects. With a flexible criteria, Roma take time to understand each borrower's unique circumstances. Roma's attentive team are always equipped to handle and take on your requests. They will guide and support you throughout the property journey. Colleagues and customer relations are the beating heart of their business. Don't forget to explore Roma's website, romafinance.co.uk, for helpful resources, including articles and case studies to guide your financial decisions. Remember, Roma Finance love to lend. Your property goals are only a call or email away. Now back to the episode.
Obviously, every business is different and depending on how much you push it, etc. But you've kind of probably got like 3 to 5 years for each phase to keep going and scaling it.
Absolutely. Which is, I think, it's so easy for maybe someone to listen to this that's maybe just starting out, and I can almost guarantee those that are listening to this that are very much established in business will be like, yeah, I can agree with that point completely, because you kind of have to go through the motions to understand and what we're kind of alluding to. And I think if you're just starting out and you can take what you've said on board, I think as long as you keep the business as lean as possible for as long as possible and make sure that you've got enough in the coffers to keep that sustained growth, which is so difficult in business. And there's nothing wrong with, being a one-man, one-woman band at that sort of, solo entrepreneur state. If you're happy with that, trust me, the grass is not greener on the other side. It comes with a lot more stress and hassle. But obviously you're a perfect example of successfully getting to that other side and kind of getting to that phase 2 before obviously the guys that have acquired you, they're more like, 3 to 4, that they're through acquisition, getting that economy of scale to effectively plug your business into their infrastructure to continue their growth, rather than having to spend, $750,000 on marketing over the next 5 years. It's right. Well, we'll bypass all that. We'll just buy this at a 4 times multiplier. We've saved a year on paper based on the multiplier and what we would have spent on marketing to acquire that. And, we've got that revenue now, which allows us to scale up even quicker.
Exactly that. And that's actually the same again. That's another thing I potentially would look at as well in any other business going forward. So whatever business you're doing, it doesn't need to be either property management related, but potentially look at some smaller acquisitions that you could do to increase your turnover. And most of the time you can get a loan out for a 10-year loan with the bank or other funders, etc. So you're going to spread that over 10 years, but you've got cash flow coming in right now. And say if you're doing a 4-5 times multiplier, but you'll probably get a better multiplier if it's a smaller business. You probably can get your money back in 18 months sometimes. And that's just a no-brainer really to do. There's I wish I'd probably looked at that. So say in the management space, if you're then, there's plenty of people out there which say got 10, 20 units that suddenly they started it, didn't really know what they're getting involved in, scaled it up, and now they've sort of decided they want to go back and get a job because they're not really earning much more than a job. Well, you can acquire that for probably like $1,000 a property, 10, 20 grand, add that straight to your turnover. You get your money back within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great way to, if you can bootstrap that, it's a great way to get economy of scale quite quickly.
Yes.
And you almost, obviously, like, you've got big institutions that do it in a massive way where they might buy, like 5 IT companies, push them all together and get a better multiplier, because at 1 million turnover, it's a 2 times EBITDA, but at 10 million turnover, it's a 5 times.
Yep.
And you take 4 £2.5 million businesses, put them together, get to the 10 million, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, that's obviously a very simple way of describing it. It is not that simple. I can almost guarantee that. But I suppose kind of jumping away from that subject and more focusing on kind of the mental health side and the psychological side of selling your business and the routine change and everything else. How's that adjustment been for you? Because I imagine going from a 24-hour business and I suppose constantly being on alert to then having just a linen business, I assume is not as intense as what you were doing. How have you sort of found that transition?
Yeah, so, well, to be fair, the linear business is quite intense because we're at the very, very phase one stage at the moment.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like I say, my partner Becca, she mainly runs it, so I haven't really had too much involvement in that side of things yet. But it has been definitely a big psychological change of just going from a 24/7 business to then not having much to do, or very much calls late at night, etc. But it was kind of a strange transition that it just felt natural for me anyway, personally. So I didn't feel too much. It just, if I now look back on it, like the last 6 months has been way more stress-free compared to before that. But I'm one of those people that you just move on with life. It's the next day, it's the next day, it's the next day. So you don't really realise how much better has it actually got without reflecting back. But now, like I say, if I look back on it, I'm not getting calls every day. I'm not getting 100 emails every day. You're not getting calls late at night or on the weekends, which I was always getting otherwise. So yeah, you definitely got a lot more free time on your hands compared to before. So you're able to just go out on the weekends to wherever you want to go to. Or yeah, as we said at the start of this podcast, I haven't been on a holiday yet, but when I go on holiday, hopefully I'll be able to go on holiday without having several calls or actually having to go on my laptop. But I do enjoy work as well. So I do miss running the business aspect of it. I do miss that sort of excitement of let's grow to this next stage. And obviously having your team around you, it's like your team. So obviously being a part of a team is different than having your team. So I do miss that sort of aspect of it. So yeah, like I say, I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do in the future yet, but I definitely will still be getting involved in business in the future.
The world's your oyster.
Yeah, exactly. So take a bit of time to think about it, but I think the exciting bit personally for me, this gives me like an opportunity now. I don't need to make a rush decision to go into whatever I do next. It's given me that sort of platform as such, the ground base. Obviously I've got investments in property. I've obviously got a lump sum of cash now which I can invest in property. I've put money in the stock market. I've always been involved in that side of things as well. So yeah, I've got investments and obviously fortunate position where I've got cash flow coming in to cover my expenses every month. So I'm not in a rush to make a decision, but I feel like the next phase or journey of my life is actually quite exciting.
Absolutely. It's quite interesting to hear you say that, you're not in any rush, because I think that is a mistake. It's a mistake I made, that I felt like if I sat still, I was going to miss something.
Yeah.
And obviously that fortunately led me to the show, which obviously worked out for the best. But I think I definitely looked at stuff that was just a waste of time just because I was so afraid to sit still and miss something. And it's quite interesting and refreshing to hear you say that you're just biding your time and you're waiting. Has that been like have you been influenced by that, or have you kind of felt like that's the right way to do it? Because I have to say that is probably the best
Yeah.
you are doing the best possible thing in the situation that you're in, which is just biding your time. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't been influenced by it. I think so. Like the main reasons. So I've had I've had a few like health issues and stuff like that over the last 12 months. So nothing like major, but like few health issues. So like I want to make sure I get those sorted out over the next 12 months. And like I said before, earlier in the podcast, I think health and fitness is such a big thing that a lot of us business people, entrepreneurs, I don't always like calling myself an entrepreneur, but business people, etc.
That's what you are.
But yeah, that we forget about, especially when you grow in a business. And I think it's actually a really important part of your life that you need to actually focus on. Otherwise, you're gonna either hurt yourself mentally or physically, etc. And then that's not gonna, if you're then not fit enough, well enough to run your business or continue with investing in property, etc., whatever you're doing, then that's all going to come tumbling down. So you actually need to remember your health and fitness is actually super, super important. And I definitely put that to the side. And you do, especially to start off with, you do have to kind of put that to the side. Because you got to go one way or the other. So you haven't got all the time, especially when you're first starting for that phase one. You do have to put 24/7 into the business to get it to the next level. But the quicker you can kind of do that, if you can just put all your focus in for that first year, and hopefully you can get into phase two, and then start to try and get some of your time back for your health and fitness. And I think sometimes that might be even taking a sacrifice on your salary. So as we said, to go into phase two, you got to take on employees. So instead of actually increasing your salary, keep it the same again in phase two, which feels a weird situation because you're probably going to pay then somebody the same salary as you, or you're spending basically the same equivalent income on salaries as your salary. So you won't get a pay rise again, which feels painful because you might do 3 or 4 years of never getting a pay rise. But you've got some time back to actually spend time on your health fitness, but which will actually help accelerate your business in the long term going forward, and then get you to phase 3 probably quicker.
I definitely think you can fit the gym in around business for sure. The thing that I struggle with is eating healthy, particularly when I'm on the road a lot, because
100%.
the options to eat healthy are just few and far between. I eat a lot of that sushi stuff, like the pastas or the noodles, and that's literally the best or a huel, which I'm not even convinced are that healthy, to be fair. And they don't really fill me up either. But like today, I've had a Greg's breakfast because obviously getting the train early, and then I'll probably have like a Subway for lunch. Like it's so hard to eat healthy. But gym, I've been to the gym this morning. That's my non-negotiable. That is.
That's definitely just a quick one on that. On the food side of things, that's been basically one of the things that I've actually looked into hugely. Well, I've had no choice to over the last 6 months. A really good book actually to listen to is called The Ultra Processed People.
Okay.
You can get it on audio or listen or read the actual physical book, and it will actually blow your mind on how much food is out there that just has so much rubbish in, basically.
Shit,
it's
scary,
actually crazy. And to be honest, so I literally did the exact same as you. For food wise, I was always on the road, and I'd always get a meal deal every day. Which, if you look at the packaging now on the ingredients, what's actually in a meal deal, it might technically say it's just a chicken sandwich, but it's got loads of other preservatives in it, which technically you don't need to make a chicken sandwich. It's crazy. And now obviously that stuff is actually impacting how you feel as well, and energized and stuff every day. So I've been spending a lot more time on basically cooking and eating fresh food.
That's the hardest part of staying healthy, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember who says it, or if it's a phrase, but basically it's along the lines of people spend all their life making money, chasing money, and then when they get money, they end up using that money to pay for health, pay for, all this other. So you end up chasing this money for no reason whatsoever, because you're only just going to spend that on trying to keep healthy when you get older. And I think that, do you know what? It's difficult, isn't it? Because if you and I were sat here 5 years ago, the topic of conversation would be like, forget your health, go and work hard, just forget about everything else, nothing else matters. But obviously it's easy for us now to sit here, we've had some level of success in business, things have worked out, to say, oh yeah, you need to be keeping healthy. And it's so easy for us to say, but because we've been through that process. But it is a process, unfortunately. We're young and we've found our passion really early on in life. So hopefully people can listen to this and maybe take note on what's to come, but try and stay conscious to look after yourself, because at the end of the day, if you're not physically here, then it's kind of all pointless, really.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, there's make sure you do look after yourself. But on the flip side, I do understand, especially in phase one, that you have to go 100%. So you do have to make slight sacrifices, but just try and make sure you do keep a little bit of attention on eating healthy and fitness.
Where you can.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's just to be honest, if you listen to that book, it says it in there, like it's not like a book that says you should eat healthy, etc., but it's just doing it where you can. And so if you could say 70% of your time you're not eating ultra processed food, then like today, like you said, you've got a Greggs, but then you might cook your own dinner this evening, so you still only had 30% of maybe more processed food out today.
Yeah.
And it still might be, it depends how processed that particular food is as well. So it's still just balance, isn't it? It's balance. But personally for me, like I had probably 4 or 5 years of meal deals. And then in the evening you get back and then I can't bother to cook either again. So I just chuck something in the oven.
Or takeaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To be honest, like normally another meal still takes half an hour, and it takes half an hour for a takeaway to get to my house, which in the time I could have just cooked a meal. Yeah. But it's just being lazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I live close to town centre, so it's very easy for me to pick food up. So it's we've kind of got out of the habit now of, we used to have like a Friday takeaway, and then you get to Sunday and you're like, I can't be asked to cook today, have an Indian or a Chinese. And then by the time you know it, you've had 3 takeaways. And then when I'm on the road, like yesterday I had Mackey's breakfast, today I've had Greggs. But you find the balance with trying to have those healthy meals when you're at home as such. Like Amy will cook nice meals for in the evening and stuff for us. So either find a girlfriend that can, or a partner that can cook for you, or learn to cook yourself for both you and your partner. So it's tough, isn't it? But I mean, it's interesting to have this conversation around obviously the fact that you've sold your business, but it's more like, what you're doing with your time now that's I find quite more interesting, because I suppose we all chase that exit, that life-changing sum of money for some people, but it's the what's next that I think is the difficult part of that process. And no, I'm certainly very excited to see what you do next. I've been watching very closely anyway for the last however long we've known each other, but I'll be watching even more to see what your next moves are. Yeah,
absolutely. Just on one other sort of tip as well, like of going through those different phases, which I know myself and I know other small businesses are sort of reluctant or scared of doing, is actually looking at alternative finance to help them scale up. I think that's also another big tip that I would actually give. So like, same again, like anyone listening to this, don't go running out there and absolutely over leverage yourself. Like, make sure you've actually took a calculated risk decision and whatever you're going to use that money for. But if you suddenly get a model that works in whatever business it is, and then you might need even more money to to either do an acquisition, or you need some funds to help spend more money on marketing, and you can clearly see the return on investment, then like go for it.
Don't be afraid to do it.
Don't be afraid to do it, because otherwise you're going to be going so slowly to get to those next phases. Like just do it. And you got to take that risk to get to that next level. But like I say, look, most people will even get to, like I say, £1 million turnover with just referrals. I can't remember what the statistics is, but it's I think it's like 80% or 90% of businesses are below £1 million turnover or something like that. I know it's quite high. But that's because most people also just grow organically and never spend money on marketing or bring in a salesperson. And sometimes you just gotta spend that, say, or bring in some external finance to spend that cash, which, yes, you might not get that money back for 12 months because you got to invest it. To say you spend money on marketing, or it might not actually hit for, say, 3 to 6 months. Then you've just found a client which then might not actually even on board for another 3 months. So you've just burned potentially 9 months of cash there. Same for a salesperson, bringing a sales rep, or someone who actually found their feet. It's going to take 3 to 6 months. Then they start actually bringing the stuff in or leads in. But then same again, that client might not on board for another 3 to 6 months. But then once it starts flowing, then it starts to accelerate. But it depends where you want to get to. And I think that's one of the things to think about. Where do you want to accelerate, take the business to in the first place?
Absolutely. That kind of leans back towards the piece of, what are you trying to achieve? Where is the milestone, or are you trying to achieve the exit? Are you trying to lifestyle business, vanity project, whatever it might be. But it's understanding that. And then if it's the scalability exit, then potentially leverage might be worth looking at rather than bootstrap. And I like that point. I think it's a good point. But it's obviously there's risk to that, because if you don't get the outcome, then effectively you've got debt that you still need to pay. So I think it's important to understand how that fits into the cash flow piece, like you say, on the marketing. If you know you're going to get 10 units every 10,000 that you spend, that's £1,000 a unit, obviously based on your maths. That's a good return on investment. So you would, in most situations, if you spend 100,000, you probably won't get 100, but you might get more like 80.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's balancing and understanding what the return on investment is on that. So
it's always taking calculated risks. So don't just listen to the podcast and then go and get a big loan out for a few £100,000. But make sure you take the calculated risk. But also, I feel like if you don't take a risk to get to that next stage, are you actually putting the business at risk not getting to that next stage? Because at the moment, say you might even have a client that's maybe 20-30% of your business, so which is actually a bigger risk to your business right now. And also, if you're in those first phase 1 or phase 2, you're heavily involved in your business. And as we were just talking about health and stuff, if you become across a health issue, then now you can't be involved in the business, and now the business is at risk as well. So potentially, if you actually don't take that risk to get to those next phases, you could be jeopardizing the whole business staying in those phase 1 or phase 2.
Absolutely. Interesting. A lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Are you looking for any business opportunities at the moment? Are you actively looking, maybe invest in other people's business, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to look at any other businesses that
obviously not service accommodation.
Obviously.
I presume you're in a contractual.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I won't be able to do anything else in the same industry. But any other good business opportunities that come along, I'd definitely be looking to have discussions along those. Especially any sort of young entrepreneurs. That's one of the big things that I do want to potentially give back to. Is trying to invest in, say, some smaller startup businesses of, say, youngsters that are maybe under 30. don't want to be specific there, but I feel like it can be hard when you are young, especially early 20s. You don't have any sort of guidance or direction, apart from, say, there's some government-funded schemes, but then most of these people are like teachers as such. They're not actually, haven't been there and done it. So there is some people out there, but ideally I'd like to give back to those people and help invest in a few smaller startup businesses to help accelerate them go through those sort of stages.
Do you know what's funny is you and I are both still in our 20s, and it feels like we've been doing this for 50 years. So if you're looking forward to feeling like 5 years more like 50 years, and this is the game that you need to be in. But I think it is a lonely place when you're just starting out, and you do feel like the outlier in most cases, and your old friends don't often understand the process that you're going through, and they don't quite get it, and you have to do stuff that might make you cringe from a marketing perspective, but you still crack on with it because you know that's what's going to deliver results. And I suppose I think it's great that you're offering that opportunity for people. And I suppose if anyone does want to reach out, how can they go about doing that? Yeah,
so the best place to reach me would be Instagram, _Josh_guest_ or LinkedIn, Facebook, Josh Guest on both of those. Or even just drop me an email, which is josh@joshguest.co.uk.
Amazing.
So pretty easy.
Happy days. Thank you, mate. And I appreciate you making the trip over for the second appearance.
No, look forward to a maybe episode 3 in the future of the next phase.
What's next? No, I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, massive congratulations to Josh again. It's a massive milestone to exit any business, and to do it successfully at such a young age, I think is, an amazing inspiration even for myself. So hopefully you've had some good nuggets and good understanding of what goes into the process of exiting, and then obviously post-exit, the kind of change in mindset towards health and all that sort of stuff. So thank you very much again for tuning in. As I always say, please do like and subscribe, and do leave a review so we can continue to get amazing guests like Josh. See you again soon. Take care. All the best.